What's going on, guys? Pete Nova here with First Read Fantasy. Still getting used to that intro as it goes a little bit quicker than our older intro. I'm joined by my guy, Fantasy Football Anonymous, Ernie. You can follow him on Twitter at Fantasy Football Anani with a Y at the end. Ernie, what's going on, man?
Not much, brother. I'm happy to get a nice morning best ball draft in here on my day off.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. And we're gonna talk NFL recent news and updates, and we're gonna do a best ball draft as well. I guess like cycling through some of the more recent news that's popping up, right? So a lot of teams like in as we're drafting, like a lot of teams are stepping onto the field for the first time, which is nice. So we're getting live updates, as we as we go. Interesting update here. Zach Taylor recently just came out and said that Joe Burrow will play more this preseason than ever as a team looks to start the season faster in years past. Kind of interesting. I think what's up, fellas? I think I know that I'm pretty sure Joe Burrow has had like kind of a slower start in the last 2 years to the season. Obviously, he was on fire last year, but I think if I go back, Ernie, let me take a look at his game log last year. I thought he started the season off kind of slow. Yeah, so week one, he completed 72% of his passes, which is really good, but it was only for 164, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 3 sacks. The next week, 23 for 36, 258, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And then he had 3 touchdowns the following week for 324 yards, but they lost all 3 games. So, I mean, outside of them physically losing, Burrow didn't really start the season slow outside of the first game against New England, where I think everyone was kind of confused by, because I don't think many people expected New England to be good. So kind of interesting to see that they're going to have him play, more preseason games. I don't necessarily know if that's a good idea, to be honest. What are your thoughts there?
It's, again, like if he goes out there and he gets hurt, it's, everybody, you're an idiot, right? But if, it's football at the end of the day, if he goes out there and, he plays like not the whole game, I hope he, but like,
Yeah.
he's getting reps just to get acclimated with the offense and it's going to help them and the team, then sure, but again, I just feel like the NFL has become such a league where it's like these quarterbacks, like they really wear their records. I don't think that's completely fair. Like I get it, but at the end of the day, it's a team sport, man. Like Joe Burrow, he don't play defense, man, but he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That's why I kind of agree with you. Like you're looking at those numbers, it's like they sound worse than they are. I don't really think he's a slow starter either. I just don't think the Bengals are a complete team. I think they're good on the offensive side of the ball. They have a good offensive minded coach. They are, fixing up the offensive line. They got Chase Brown. Obviously, we know the weapons at wide receiver. So, they just got to fix up the defense and they'll win more games. So
Yeah, I mean, they did bring in Amarius Mims, Orlando Brown as well, so those tackles should be much, much better this year.
hmm
So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how that line holds up this year. Another note: Joe Mixon placed on the non-football injury list. He is expected to be okay fairly soon, is what reports are saying. I think you know the more and more I think about the Joe Mixon and the Nick Chubb situation, number one, I still find it a little concerning with Mixon, the fact that like he is still like not practicing from an ankle
hmm
injury.
hmm
And they brought in Chubb, and I don't think Chubb would sign there if like he didn't think he was going to have a chance to compete, or at least be not maybe
hmm
not be like the number one, but like if there wasn't going
hmm
to be somewhat of a rotation. I worry about Joe Mixon because when you look at Mixon and his opportunity share last year, it was really high. And so I don't expect his opportunity share to be as high as what we saw. He was fifth in opportunity share last year with 77.7%. So that would be the carries plus targets in the offense per player profiler. I don't expect that to be the same. I expect them to mix in, ironically, Nick Chubb. But I also think it's interesting because they brought in all these pass catchers. So you think immediately, oh shit, they're going to throw the football a ton, right? But at the same time, and they bring in Nick Chubb, they bring in another rookie running back as well. And that offensive line, again, we talked about it, Ernie. I mean, I know they drafted second round kid, big guy, and they're expecting to play left tackle, who I think he actually just signed his rookie deal yesterday.
Hmm.
He'll be ready to go for camp. But again, defensive minded head coach, kind of like the Mahomes thing in a way. But the difference is Stroud is willing to take more deep shots, in my opinion, than Mahomes has been. So I think Nico's fine. Nico's also just better than Worthy. Just going back to our conversation the other night.
Right.
But I think at the same time, defensive minded head coach, they brought in Nick Chubb. They play a slower pace of play. They were bottom third in pace of play last year. Is this a team that's going to be a run first team? I expect it. I don't think they're going to be pass first. Stroud got pounded last year. I don't think they want to put him in harm's way. He did not look like himself, I think, because of all that pressure. So it's going to be interesting. I still like the pass catchers in that room, but again, Joe Mixon on the NFI. Well, I should know non-football injury list, quote unquote, but I think that's just a way of bringing him back sooner because, well, it's non-football, I guess, because he got injured outside of practice with the ankle, maybe. Who the fuck knows? But he'll be back soon and practicing. But it is a little interesting that he's expected to be okay fairly soon. I don't
Hmm.
really love to hear that. There's not really a
Hmm.
timeline there.
Right. Yeah, dude, I'm out on Joe Mixon. I've never really been in on him. Like, I think he was a good player years ago, but now, man, like, he's deceivingly an injury prone player. And I think you hit on all like the red signals, right? Like, if you're a Joe Mixon fan, this has nothing to do with talent and more or less like age and durability, right? And everything that's going on around him. Like, they not only brought in Nick Chubb, and Pete makes an excellent point where it's like, yeah, like these players are signing. Like, do you think Nick Chubb is signing in a place where he's going to truly be a backup? No, he's going somewhere where he thinks he has an opportunity of, starting or splitting reps, whatever it may be. But also, like, they traded up for Woody Marks, the rookie running back you were talking about. Like, Woody Marks is a dog. Like, he was a beast at USC, and like he's a good receiving back. So again, like I think it could be a little bit more serious, and I don't want to take the chances, especially now when you bring in all these juice, you bring in this rookie, you bring in Nick Chubb. I don't have confidence that Joe Mixon is going to get that volume that really made him the fantasy value that he is. So yeah, I do agree. The offensive line is shaky. Like we know that's why Stroud didn't look great last year. A lot of people thought he took it. Yeah, it's because his offensive line is terrible. They did bring in Urshery, the tackle from Minnesota you were talking about. I like him. I actually think he could be a hit. And to me, that at least it's a step in the right direction. Because if my offensive line is gonna suck, and I could have one position that I know is like, okay, we're good here, right? It would be left tackle. Again, it's a
Yep.
question mark. He's a rookie, right? I'm just going off of size, film, Senior Bowl. Like, dude, he took a shit on Mike Green, which is pretty impressive. So,
Mm.
they could potentially hit there. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I think this is a defensive minded coach. They're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to, they don't have an offensive line where Stroud can drop back and throw to all these weapons. I think, adding all these receivers are good though, and it won't make them one dimensional now when they lean on the run. Now, if they have to, open it up a little bit because teams are honing in on the run, they can spread it out. You got the two new rookies, you got Christian Kirk. So yeah, man, I agree. But I don't like Joe Mixon. I think he's way too expensive for all the red flags around him right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. And looking at it last year, right? So Mixon suffered that injury and it cost him weeks 3 to 5. And he re-aggravated that ankle. And then they said this was something that popped up in his individual offseason training. So it wasn't at any of the team sponsored stuff, right? And again, it's kind of weird. And I don't know, reports are, like I said, suggesting he'll be ready for camp, but they were suggesting he'd be ready for camp. That's what came out a little while ago, but now he's not ready for camp, right? So I don't know. Technically, camp, like this is like sometimes the verbiage is weird with coaches where like technically this isn't camp or the season hasn't started yet. It's like the first week before getting ready for the first preseason game. So like sometimes coaches get a little wishy-washy with the coach speak there and what they're actually saying. Now Javi did say, isn't this the same ankle from last season? To my knowledge, it is. And again, it is concerning to me. That is the same ankle from last year, but some other stuff. Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox was placed on the injured list as well. A little interesting because they did sign a tight end. It wasn't a big name player, but they did sign some depth. And Dawson Knox is entering his seventh season, and apparently he seems like he's in good spirits. It's a non-football injury, so a lot, just kind of hoping that it's nothing serious. But he's going to have to be cleared by the team's medical staff to play. So I mean, interesting. I don't really have much exposure to Dalton Kincaid. I just the Bills' offense, Ernie, is it's tough to navigate. I would say with Dalton Kincaid, the price on him is really cheap, and this is a player that's attached to an elite quarterback,
Mhm.
and so that's it's hard to pass that up. We expect the Bills offense to be, one of the best in the NFL. So you would think like with Kincaid being that number one guy at the tight end position, you would think we'd be more in on him. He's going as tight end 14, overall 128. I don't mind taking a guy like Dalton Kincaid if maybe you have a guy you feel really sure about, like maybe an Njoku or an Evan Ingram, and then you rolling the dice with Kincaid for upside, but comfortable saying, you know what, if I cut him, I cut him. Because I don't want to hold two tight ends really often, especially in redraft managed leagues. If I have a really good tight end one, but that would be my goal with Kincaid. And before you jump in with Kincaid, Ernie, I want to go over what his numbers looked like last year. So Dalton Kincaid was tight end 29, averaged 7.8 points per game. That was ranked 18th, in the NFL, and 75 targets last year. Not terrible for a tight end. 75 targets is pretty good in 13 games. So target share was there, Ernie. It just they didn't connect. They only caught 44 passes on those 75 targets. Two touchdowns, full 48. So I mean, the volume was there for what you had hoped. I mean, if you look at for 13 games, Ernie, 75 targets, he would have paced upwards of 90 targets on the season. And for a tight end, that's not bad. And if Dawson Knox is hurt, maybe it is worth taking a shot on Dalton Kincaid. Again, attached to a really, really strong quarterback. Target rate, he was number 7 in the NFL for target rate with 29.4%. And target share was ranked 8th with 20.2%. So the target and the volume was there. Josh Allen continued to look his way. They just did not connect as much on those passes. They didn't really bring in anybody big that's going to eat a ton of volume in this offense. I don't know. Maybe Dalton Kincaid is worth taking a shot on. I haven't really put too much thought into him because I just like a lot of the guys that go around him.
Yeah, man. I mean, here's the thing. So he's not somebody I'm targeting, but like if I don't get one of the three tight ends that I am targeting, based off of like where he's going, I'll take a shot on him because if there's a year for Dalton Kincaid to break out, this is the year. Again, I can't get that drop out of my head in the big game. Like I can't unsee it. But I will say this because Brandon Bean, who I do think is an overrated GM, and ironically, Joe Shane came from that tree. Um, there's no really good weapons around Josh Allen. You know what I mean? Like we sit here and it's like, oh, well, he threw for 4,000 yards. He didn't throw for 4,000 yards last year. Yeah, man, like Khalil Shakir's just wide receiver one. Like, and like Shakir's a good receiver. He's a solid receiver, but he's like a little slot receiver. Like, why they didn't trade for Brandon Ayuk or something like that. I'll never understand. But that's what I'm saying, man. Like, they don't really have, you know, a go-to guy there. So like, Kim Kane has the pedigree. Like I don't think Josh Palmer is going to be anything special. Elijah
Elijah
Moore,
Moore, maybe. I
that's
mean,
what I mean, I like see Elijah Moore kind of has the pedigree. He was on the Jets, and it's like we're starting to see a trend in the NFL when these players leave these New York teams, they just all of a sudden they're good. And
I
oh,
mean,
like
dude. To be fair, Elijah Moore was not bad last year with the Browns.
I agree. I agree.
I
So
mean, he really
that
wasn't bad.
I like Elijah Moore value just because like you get him with like your last pick. Like, okay,
Dude, he had
I'll do that all day.
he had 103 targets last year.
You know what? I will say this, like, and me and you are both Shakir guys. I'm from last year, but
Yeah.
like, dude, there's a world like they play the same position. You know what I mean? And there's a world where Elijah Moore could have deceivingly been the better player all along. So imagine like he comes and dethrones, Shakir, but they
I
paid him
could
all
see it.
that money, so
No,
it's
I could see it. Look, I like Shakir. I liked Shakir a lot last year
yeah,
because it's a similar thing with Dalton Kincaid. You're getting a cheap piece in an offense where you expect there to be a lot of volume to the player. Um, I'm not in on Shakir this year, and it sucks because I really like him as a player, but I can't justify his cost for
value's
the
way too
upside
high.
there. Yeah, I can't. And we have some questions here, guys, and we're gonna get to those. So just give us a second, Sir Brooks and Ryan and the mediators. But the thing about Elijah Moore, the only thing I worry about a little bit is this Buffalo Bills offense is not like a timing and rhythm offense. It's a lot of backyard football, Josh Allen extending plays, and Elijah Moore is a really good route runner. And so, I worry a little bit of like, does he need that timing? And he may not. I mean, honestly, he may not need to be. I mean, he has the speed and the ability to like I don't think he needs to be a timing receiver, I guess is what I'm saying. And it's not like I sat here and did a ton of research on Elijah Moore and expected to talk
Sure.
about him much today. But overall, I mean, it's hard to ignore. He's got back-to-back seasons with over 100 targets. I mean, I mean,
Second
it's
round pick,
hard.
dude.
And
He's
he
a
was a second
second
round
round
pick.
pick. And I will say this.
And
I
one more thing. He played he was number 5 in slot snaps last year. That is
yeah,
the biggest concern with Elijah Moore because Dalton Kincaid plays in the slot a ton. He's not the inline guy. That's why Knox sees the field a lot because he can block. Kincaid is not that guy. And then you have Shakir who also
yes.
dominates the slot.
Yes.
So that's where it's kind of I don't
Yes.
know how much Elijah Moore how dependable he could be on a redraft team unless there's an injury there. But if there is an injury there, I mean, and I don't think he's there. Look, Shakir is a trusted weapon for Josh Allen. So I don't expect there to be like, he overtakes Shakir's spot because they just paid him. But it is interesting. Elijah Moore is an interesting player to take a chance on. But I think the slot snaps are really, really telling. But what are your thoughts? I'm going to take a look and see Elijah Moore and see his splits in college to see how much he did play out wide.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, the last thing I'll say about Elijah Moore is this: is like you hit it on the head. Like the only thing that like kind of like throws a wrench in it is just how many like their two best receivers are utilized out of the slot, and that's where Elijah Moore is going to thrive. However, I can confidently say Elijah Moore is definitely the best route runner they have on their entire roster right now.
Yeah.
Like that, like I fully believe. So I have to imagine that a quarterback like Josh Allen, like once he gets a sense of this, and he gets a feel, bro, he's going to be on the field because he's telling the OC, like, bro, like this kid is, arguably might be one of the better receivers we have. We got to work him into the packages.
That's the problem though, because Kincaid is just not a guy that's going to line up like in line. Like he's going to be played a lot in the slot,
Sure.
which is why people were not on Shakir last year because everybody was expecting Kincaid to take that big step forward, and he didn't. Now looking at the splits last year, out wide for Elijah Moore. Let's see. So Elijah Moore played 395 snaps out wide and 490 in the slot. So that's pretty encouraging. So good to at least see that. Again, I can't sit here and tell you that like I prepped to talk about Elijah Moore. And I don't want to say, anything wrong about his style of play because I can't tell you that I've been paying attention to him too much. But the fact that he has that ability and he played almost 400 out wide is really encouraging.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe Elijah Moore could be a guy to take a chance on. He's probably going to go like towards the end of drafts, but let's put a pin in that. There's some other news we want to talk about, but I also want to get to some questions here. Mediator said, "Are you running it back with Kyle Pitts?" I'm not. I think I'm out on him still. high upside player. I'm fine, but he wouldn't be the guy I draft as my tight end one if I wanted to take a speculative upside play. And I didn't invest high in the position at tight end. I think I would be okay taking Pitts. What about you, Ernie?
I'm so out. I couldn't be any more out on a
Yeah.
player. I just I don't even want like it's just I feel like it's a waste of a draft pick. If he hits, man, I'll wear it. Really.
Yeah. And that's sometimes what you got. That's just kind of how you have to go about it. Like sometimes like I'm not out on a player completely. I'm just out on their cost. The cost is not terrible. But I prefer guys going around Pitts. So let's get to Sir Brooks. You said I just traded the 25 101 for Marv, JT, and a 26 first. So pretty much traded Genty for Marv, JT, and a 2026 first. How did I do? I'm in a complete rebuild 10-man start 11 super flex going Hampton. Okay, so he has the 102 and I had the 105, 109. So I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, again, it's pretty much Genty for Marv, JT, and a first next year. I think it's fine. I mean, Marv and JT should be enough for Genty. I mean, Marv's value is suppressed a little bit after a bad year last year. I don't think it was as bad as people are making it seem. JT for a rebuilder starting to get up there a little bit in age. And if you are rebuilding, I would try to move off of JT as well, especially if you're drafting Hampton at the 102. I would try to flip JT maybe for a younger back. If maybe maybe you go to the Bucky Irving owner and try to trade him for JT straight up. That'd be something I would take a look at. But what are your thoughts on this, Ernie?
Yeah, the fact that he got Marv, JT, and a 26 first, like he won that trade easily. Because Marvin Harrison, whether it's Kyler Murray figures it out or they eventually just have to draft whatever has to happen. Marvin Harrison is going to be a very elite player in this league. That's why I agree with Pete. Like last year again, the production is one thing, but a lot of that has to do with the circumstances. Sometimes players are kind of handcuffed. But yeah, dude, if you're rebuilding, then you got time, man. So you got Marv, JT, and the choice. I agree with Pete. I would trade JT and try to get things useful to your rebuild. Younger players, more picks. But dude, you are. I love that you traded the 1.1, you traded, and then you're taking Hampton. I think Hampton actually. I've said this is one of my bolder takes. I think Hampton actually could be the more productive fantasy football running back this year over Genty. So if
Yeah.
that happens, now you look like a genius. So good job, man. Really good.
Yeah, and I would say too with Marv, especially if it's a rebuilder, you don't need Marv to be great this year either. And what I would say is, look, I think this is the year for Kyler. If Kyler does not, I think I honestly think like if Kyler doesn't perform this year, that the draft class is pretty good next year. And I'm gonna pull up Kyler's contract. But like if you are are a rebuilder, I don't think it's a big deal if Marv doesn't have like a crazy impact year for you. You don't need him to. And
Yeah.
Kyler can be moved off next year
Hmm.
for 57 million in dead cap. While that
Hmm.
sounds like a lot, the Broncos just ate more than 57
Hmm.
million guaranteed. And if they're going to re-roll the dice with a rookie next year, then that's fine. Like it's the same thing that the Broncos are doing with Knicks, like rookie quarterback salary, like you can maneuver. And I think the GM for the Cardinals is pretty good. And he didn't draft Kyler Murray. So overall, I think this is like fine. And even if it's not a big year for Marv, long term, you're a rebuilder. You don't need him to be amazing next year.
Hmm.
And he could easily get a new
Yep.
quarterback the following year. Now, I do want to take a look at some of these. Let's see. Michael said in a total rebuild, you build your cornerstones receivers first before backs. Yes, totally agree with that. And then Michael also said, if Elijah Moore was in Pittsburgh, that would actually have been a really, really good addition to that room. I think he could definitely have complemented them well. Dennis said,
Don't
"What's up,
sleep on
guys?"
Roman. Don't sleep on Roman Wilson, man. You
Dude,
guys
I
are
like
acting
him,
like
man.
he's
I know.
dead.
I like him. I know. I can't
It's
get
the
myself
same
to buy
logic.
back
Use
in.
the same logic you use for Elijah Moore with Roman Wilson, and I will take you to the promised land. I promise you.
All right, well, let's get to Ryan. He said, would you send Jared Goff plus ETM for Hampton and Dynasty Superflex? I would say give us some more context, Ryan. We'll come back to you. If you could just let us know who your quarterbacks are, it would make this an easier answer. I would say in the surface, if you have two really good quarterbacks, I'm fine with doing this. I think it's a good deal for sure. I think you're getting a really good deal. I mean, Hampton's in some cases the 102 in Superflex. In some cases, I've seen him go 105. Goff is probably worth around the 106 to 108 right now, in my opinion. So ETN doesn't tip the scale where it's like you're giving up too much. So I think overall, I would do this, but I would just need to know who your other guys. He said he's got Josh, he's got Dak, Penix, Russ. Yeah, you're fine. That's totally fine to do that deal. I
Oh,
really
rip
like
that.
that actually.
He
Yeah.
got Josh and Dak. Dude, smash that trade.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And then Michael also said, "What's the chance that Dalton Kincaid leads the Bills in fantasy points of all pass catchers?" I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
He's got to be, top 3 for me.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
there's 3 legit options, in my opinion.
yeah. Let me see. Let's just take a
Well,
look
I think
here.
it's gonna be either him or Shakir, and then outside of that, I think Elijah Moore would be your dark horse. If he just becomes that guy and develops a big role, and just his role grows as the year goes on.
Well,
Um,
so Kincaid was second in targets last year alone. Shakir was number one with 100. Kincaid was 75, but Kincaid also missed 4 games. Shakir missed 2. So again, like he would have been pretty close. Kincaid would have paced to get to around somewhere around mid 90s. Shakir would have paced to get like low 100s, like maybe 108 to 115, whereas Kincaid would have been. So I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibilities, especially if Elijah Moore, Josh Palmer eat into that wide receiver work, and Kincaid is maybe dominating the slot. Maybe he takes a step forward. There's also rumors that Kincaid was hurt last year, so. Let's see, Ernie. What else we got? Michael said, "I'm liking Roman Wilson as a Wolverine." So I guess Michael must be a Michigan fan. You're not
dude,
a
he's
Michigan fan, right?
Rogers starting slot receiver. I'll take the chance.
Dennis said, "I'm expecting Palmer to have a better year than Moore." Yeah, I don't think that's out of the question either. I think it really depends on how Moore is utilized. Palmer can play more on the outside. We
Yep.
did talk about how Elijah Moore was top 5, was 5 in slot snaps last year, but he also played out wide a lot. Just also goes to show how much the Browns threw the football last year. I mean, I don't think it's out of the question. We were supposed to do a best ball draft, Ernie, but let's just keep rolling with like recent news, and we
Oh
could always
yeah.
do another
Hell
best
yeah.
ball draft because I think this is it's it's always fun to kind of, now that camp's back, to kind of talk about what's going on and the recent updates and everything like that. I mean, we're kind of back into the
Yeah.
full swing of things.
Hell yeah, dude.
Um,
I'm down with that because I don't honestly. I'd rather talk about camp right now. I'm having way much more fun. I've done so many best ball drafts, but
well, so here's an interesting for you. Bears practice began today already, and Braxton Jones and Colson Loveland did participate. So that's pretty big news. Colson Loveland did participate. Now, I don't know in what kind of capacity, but it's to begin practice. So Colson Loveland is out there. No sign of wide receiver Luther Burden, which I think we expected. So that's a good sign for Colson Loveland. If Colson Loveland can practice Ernie early here, I think we'll see his ADP start to go back up a little bit, because I was very, very concerned if he was going to miss majority of camp, which is what it sounded like was a strong possibility.
yeah, no, I mean, all this is doing is it's making me like a player that I don't like because like sometimes like you just gotta swallow your pride, and it's like when the offensive line is good, the weapons are good, like and everything is set up for this guy to just walk into 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Like, yeah, to me it's more encouraging news to Caleb Williams because again, like it's the Bears have a great problem in real life. It's a headache for fantasy because it's like, all right, who is going to be, the elite fantasy receiver there? And they just drafted Loveland, 10th overall. So they have high hopes for him. You have O'Dunes, you have, DJ Moore, and now you have Burden. So it's hard to decipher who's going to become the alpha, who's going to be the go-to, who's going to see the most volume. Um, but yeah, it honestly makes me like Caleb Williams more. And now he has Ben Johnson, and we'll see. I mean, Ben Johnson was good in Detroit. I think he was a little cocky for a guy that didn't even win a Super Bowl as an OC. So We'll see, man. But everything is lining up for Caleb to actually have a nice little bounce back. But yeah, definitely encouraging for the Bears and their fans because you don't want to see, one of your solid linemen and your top 10 pick not practicing the beginning of the year. That's never good.
Yeah. So Michael just said, and I want to get back to the Bears actually, because there was something that came out yesterday that I wanted to talk about. Michael also said last 24 hours. Yeah, I just saw the update that Damian Pierce was also placed on the pup list. So he was placed on the pup. Mixon was placed on the NFI, so Mixon's going to have a chance to come off pretty quickly, most likely. Pup is more concerning in my opinion. I mean, they're both injured lists. Don't get me wrong, but Mixon we know at least we've heard he's coming off that soon. But I don't know. I mean, it sounds like Nick Chubb is going to probably be ready to go. So I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't. So that's interesting. And then Dennis said, "I'm hopeful that Loveland is healing slow into the season, so his price stays low enough to buy because he's a top 10 tight end for the next 15 years." Yeah, I mean, we've argued this a lot, me, Coach, Matt, about Loveland, and I know me and you talked about it, Ernie, too. My thing with Loveland is if the price stays low in redraft, I'm definitely open to buying him but you have to be comfortable, in my opinion, with the possibility of like number one, my rule of thumb is I do not roster two tight ends majority of the time in managed leagues. It's a dead roster spot usually. If you don't have a top tight end, rostering a one for depth unless it's a high upside player like Loveland, right? Like it's a waste of a spot usually in my
Hmm.
opinion. I'd rather take a chance on a rookie running back right at the end of my roster because odds are, you're not going to start that backup tight end unless unless they break out early. Loveland is a guy who I think like if his price stays where it's at, I don't mind tinkering a little bit with some exposure, depending on who my starting tight end is. If I'm paying a premium for a tight end, Ernie, like Kittle, like McBride or Bowers, which I don't typically do, then I'm not drafting another tight end at all. There's no reason to, in my opinion. But if you draft like Loveland and maybe again Evan Ingram or Njoku, like maybe that makes a little bit more sense because you're not heavily invested in the position as much. Now this one I'll give to you, Ernie. Michael said if Woody Marks can get first team reps in camp, can that lead to a role in the Texans' backfield?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Dude, he is a really good running back. If you got time today, just go watch some Woody Marks highlights. Go look at his game logs, man. Like he's a really good player. Um, and there was a theme this year, if you've noticed, a lot of good teams too. Like they're all playoff teams that did this. Rams, Texans, Chargers. They were all trading up in the fourth and fifth round. And it was for tight ends and running backs. And, this was one of the better running back and tight end draft classes ever. So a lot of good value was falling. And like Woody Marks, like Jarquez Hunter with the Rams is one of them. Like, but Woody Marks is another. And Texas traded up. Like, yeah, man, like he could carry the load and he's a really good receiving back. He's the youngest one there. He's got juice. So I definitely think if like, it depends on how high the Texans are at him, and they traded up for him. So they definitely know they needed at least depth. So that should tell you another thing about Joe Mixon. But if they're that high on him where they're giving him the opportunity to have a role, I would definitely buy Woody Marks because I think he has the upside to um, win a really big role this year, if not be the guy. We've seen that happen before too. So that's how I feel about Woody.
Yeah, I think Woody has a chance to have a role for sure in this offense. I think he 100% does, especially with some of the injuries. So I think he's a fine guy to take a shot on. Especially we're taking shots on guys at the back end of your roster. What's up, Joe? Joe is from the sports affiliation. He just recorded a show with Ernie and Hoff last night. He's got a show, I believe it's called The Aces Up. It's a really fun show. He brings on a lot of really good creators. If you haven't already, go ahead and check it out. Really, really fun show. Again, it's the sports affiliation. That's where you'll find them over there on YouTube. But give them a subscribe and give them a follow and go support those guys. They're good people and they do some good work over there. And it was a good show last night. So I was excited. And it looks like Joe or at least there is a show. Yeah, it is. Looks like Joe is going live tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time with Joe Frick, who is a good friend of mine as well, and him and Rick are going to do that show. So it should be a lot of fun. Go check them out. Yeah, looks Michael said, "What's up, Joe?" And then Michael also said, "Loveland to me is a perfect second tight end and a tight end premium, especially." Yeah, I would agree. It just to me, it depends on like if you're in a league where like you only have 6 roster spots, like it's hard for me to hold 2 tight ends. That's my biggest concern, Ernie, is like it's hard to hold 2 tight ends, in those kinds. So Joe said doing my very first auction draft tonight. I don't know if it's first auction. I would assume it's just first auction of the year because there's no way a guy like you has never done auction before. Auction is my favorite format. I'm actually getting Ernie to join my league this year, and we do a little bit of auction, and it gets fun, man. It's a live auction draft. It's a lot of fun. Those are my favorite. That's my favorite format, man. Love it. Oh man. All right, let's see what else. Small news: James Cook is practicing so far. I don't know if he's going to be a full participant, but he is out there practicing. So that's encouraging. Looked like there was going to be a quote unquote hold in, but so far so good. Colts, Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, Ernie, they pretty much rotated with first and second team reps. Jones did get more first team reps so far, though. I'm not going to read into that too much.
Shocker.
I'm not going to read into it too much. That not a big deal. They're going to rotate like similar to the Saints, where I'm pretty sure I just saw a report that said Desmond Ridder got the first reps. For Saints, like they're going to rotate guys too, but I think ultimately it's going to be Shaw, unless Shaw is just really, really brutal and not ready. Not Ridder. Who's the Saints guy? I always get confused. It's Ridder.
Rattler.
Ridder Rattler. Yeah. So. Scott said, great show. Heading to work. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, Scott, appreciate you jumping in, man. And Michael said, shout out to Joe Frick. So Ernie, talk to me a little bit. Your money is on Daniel Jones, I take it. Daniel Jones taking that starting job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's my logic and view on this. This is coming from somebody that I feel like is an unbiased Giants fan. I'll tell you how terrible. I'll tell from every aspect of the organization how terrible they are. I'm just going to bet on this trend of these players leaving these horrible New York teams and taking a step wherever they go, right? And like I've seen Anthony Richardson on a good offense, and I know what Anthony Richardson looks like. Amazing athlete, awesome athlete. He cannot throw a football. So I don't, and like this is with time. You know what I mean? Like I've seen Daniel Jones throw the ball off, but he's getting hit in less than 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like he's getting murdered. There's a difference when you have the weapons, the coach, the offensive line, and you still can't hit these passes, right? And now you have Daniel Jones, who already looks better in camp. He's already healthy. It's the same thing you said with Nick Chubb, right? Is Nick Chubb going to sign somewhere he's really going to be a backup, or somewhere does he think he has an opportunity to play? And, Schefter had one of the, better quotes this offseason was, Daniel Jones' market was in high demand and a much bigger, like he basically came off and said that NFL teams are higher on Daniel Jones than the public consensus is. And that's why there was kind of like a little bit of a bidding war going on for Daniel Jones. It was mainly the Colts and the Vikings, but he ultimately picked the Colts, and there's a reason for that, man. They have the offensive line, they have the weapons, they have the coach, and he knows, he's like, hey, I could start here. You know what I mean? And I'm going to show the world that I'm not that bad. I'm not saying he's going to win the Super Bowl. I'm just saying I know how bad the Giants roster is. Like a lot of people, they see the highlights, they see the stats. I get that. I watch the games, and the Giants are that bad. So again, it's like, dude, it's like if last year, if I told you, hey, Pete, Sam Darnold's going to throw for 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and lead the Vikings to the playoffs, what would you honestly say to me? You'd call me nuts. You'd say, dude, that's crazy. Like and I get it, right? But that's the picture I'm painting here, where it's like this is actually like this could really happen. Like there are players that aren't that bad, just on bad teams. So again, I think it's a value. Like I like Daniel Jones in best ball. and super flex, because if he is the starter, you're getting good value on him. But it goes both ways, because Anthony Richardson's value is kind of plummeted now. So like, let's say I'm wrong and Anthony Richardson, like, strike like this competition, like, pulls out the animal and Anthony Richardson, and now he could throw accurately, right? Dude, you're getting great value. So that's where I'm at them. It's not like I'm going out of my way, but yeah, I'll take him as like my third quarterback. Why not?
Yeah, I think that's fair. So, I mean, not to get too hyper focused on, first training camp practices, but just to go through some of the notes from Noah Compton, who is a Colts beat reporter, for their 11-on-11 drills. Richardson incomplete to Justin Wally incomplete with a Justin Wally pass breakup. Travarius Ward also had a PBU from a throw from AR to Michael Porter Jr., but he said that Michael Pittman Jr. Downs had a drop as well. Batchy had another PBU on a good throw from AR to Warren, and then AR to Pierce for a slant on a chunk. So it looks like not the best period for him. And then on the second team final, which I think was Daniel Jones, JT run stuffed, then a 25-yard fade connection from Daniel Jones to Gold set up on the sideline, and then a bubble from Jones, a halted in the backfield, and then a bean off target to Treadwell, which I think is just another quarterback on that roster. So we'll see. Joe said he took dimes in a SFB draft around round 15 QB2. And Michael said, I like Geno as a great value in drafts with Las Vegas. Yeah, I think Geno
I like
has.
Geno too.
Yeah, Geno's interesting. I looked at the points per game breakdown from last year, and I'm gonna see if let me see if I can pull it back up here. Yeah, give me 1 second. So on a points per game basis for quarterbacks, and I always just put it at like played like a minimum of like 400 or 500 snaps. Points per game wise, Geno Smith was the quarterback. Well, he's quarterback 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. He was quarterback 15, but he was right behind Justin Herbert by like 0.5 on a points per game basis. And the Kyler Murray, or I'm sorry, Patrick Mahomes, not even Pat. Let's see. Geno had 16.53. Yeah, so I mean, Tua Tagovailoa was quarterback like 13 at 17.14. He wasn't even a full points per game more. Patrick Mahomes had not even 2 more points per game than Geno. So like again, that's the reason to me, like 2 points per game, it could make a huge difference, or it could not matter too much at all. I'd rather, like if I'm not getting these elite quarterbacks, I punt the position just like I do tight end, because there's not a huge variance on a points per game basis once you get past the elite guys, in my opinion. It's just kind of how I look at it. But
Agreed.
I don't know if there's really too much else here, Ernie. Let me see if there's anything recent that popped up while we've kind of been going on here. Looks like, unfortunately, Dolphins offensive lineman Bayron Matos, this just came out 30 seconds ago, was injured in the final minutes of training camp practice and was airlifted via helicopter to a medical center for further evaluation. Currently is in stable condition. So the fact that they're saying stable condition makes me think maybe it could have been, more cardiovascular or something like that. I don't want to speculate, but I don't think it probably wasn't a football injury as much as maybe it's super hot in Miami, right? And maybe he wasn't hydrated enough. I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but the fact that they're saying stable condition, and unless they think like he could have like ruptured something, I don't know.
Right.
I don't want to speculate too much, but it sounds like maybe it could have just been something from the heat or something. So hopefully he's
Sure.
okay. I think that's really it. Last thing, I guess, it looks like Jaden Daniels and Debo Samuel are building some chemistry. It's Daniels, I guess, threw a pretty awesome touchdown pass to Debo about 20 to 25 yards. And it looks like they are getting in a rhythm with no Terry McLaurin. We'll see. Hollywood Brown also, Ernie. I'm just saying. I just watched the play. Looks like he had a pretty big touchdown today in
I want
practice.
nothing to do with him. Keep him
Just saying.
away from me.
I'm
I
just
will
saying.
um who you You're just talking about before that.
I was talking about the dude. That's sad that I can't even remember.
I know, dude. I'm like that's where I'm at. I've been working like a dog this
Debo,
week.
Debo Samuel,
Yeah.
Debo.
All right. So I gotta say something about Debo real quick because this is getting insane. I'm not even in on Debo this year. I am not drafting him. For the people calling Debo fat, stop. Guys, he is like 200 pounds of muscle alpha male that will rip you in half. He is not fat. Okay. We don't have to like him for fantasy, but Debo is, dude, like, I just saw a picture of him the other day, dude. He's brolic, you know. So I have you been seeing a lot of the Debo hate lately? Because it's like crazy. It's like, what did this guy do? I don't even feel like Debo is like warranted that. It's not like he's Josh Norman. You know what I mean? But I just think it's crazy that I'm defending a player that I'm not even really in on or like. How are you gonna call him fat? Crazy to me.
I mean, I don't know how true this is. I mean, his personal trainer says that he has 8% body fat, which is fine. I don't know how
Yeah,
true that is. It's his personal trainer, so I mean,
looks like it.
I'm sure they'll say a lot of things to
Sure.
make it sound good. But for what it's worth, Jaden Daniels did drop a dime over the shoulder to Debo on a slot fade today for a touchdown. And it looks like they're connecting, and it's a good sign. I mean, Debo pretty cheap in drafts this year, and there's not a ton of options there. I'm worried about Terry McLaurin, not about the holdout, but I think touchdown regression is imminent for him. I think his cost is really, really high, or at least it
Yep.
was. People were taking Terry practically at the 2-3 turn or early on this season. He's still going pretty high. I'm not in on him at that price right now. He's going as wide receiver 17, pick 36. So his ADP has dropped a little bit, Ernie, but he's still going. He's still going mid third round, like close to the second. And to me, actually, well, no, 12, 24. No, actually, he's going at the end of the third round, which is a little bit more of a palatable cost. But you have guys like Marv, Mike Evans, and now Rashi Rice is going behind Terry. I will gladly take Rashi Rice.
Yeah.
Five,
Yeah.
six picks behind Terry.
I mean, like, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's not that Terry McLaurin's bad. Like, we know he's good and he's connected to a blossoming Jaden Daniels, but I'm just not taking him there, man. I just could use, that draft capital on better resources. But like, I was like, if you're asking me who would I rather take, Terry McLaurin at cost or Debo Samuel at cost, give me Debo, especially if it's PPR, because just like you said, they don't really have anybody else outside of Terry McLaurin. And now Debo could kind of come in and be that slot guy, right? And all that underneath stuff and behind the line of scrimmage. So I feel like that's something that the Commanders were lacking last year. So there could be, a nice world where Debo is a solid PPR flex this year, and he was much more cost effective than Terry.
I think we're going to see Debo out of the backfield too as a running back a lot
Hell
in this
yeah.
offense.
Yeah,
So it'll be fun to see. I will say that there's a lot of value on veterans this year. I mean, you're probably one of the people pushing up all these rookies, Ernie, and ADP because you love them so much. But this year,
absolutely.
there's a lot of value on veteran players. And the
Sure.
last thing I'll say, and then we'll sign off. I think Cortland Sutton could very well have a better year than Terry, and Sutton's going 15, 16 picks past where Terry goes. I'd much rather take a chance on Sutton, who, I mean, arguably has maybe even worse target competition than Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels, I'm sorry, than Terry. And Jaden Daniels is going to run the ball more than Bo Nix.
Yeah.
So I'd rather take Sutton, who goes at wide receiver 24, pick 51. But we'll see. Fun show. I don't know if the mediators are going on tonight, but stay tuned for that. I know me and Hoff will be on Friday. Ernie might join us as well. We might have another guest on top of that. We're going to have more content coming to you guys. I know this is an earlier show, but really appreciate everybody coming out and watching. Joe, Michael, the comments. We got Scott. We got Dennis. We got the mediators, of course. We have Sir Brooks, Javi, Greg McCown showed up in the beginning. I don't know if you're still here, Greg. Usually you kind of probably might be operating in silence. But we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.